Okay, cool. So welcome to the second day of Cohort 5. Before we start the class, my question to everybody is, or whoever's here is there any questions with HTML and CSS?
That's a oh no. Did I just freeze? Can you hear me?
I don't know if it's me that's freezing or.
Can you hear me, Crystal?
What'd you say, Ash?
Oh no. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think Isaiah might be frozen. I thought it was me at first.
Oh, am I frozen?
You were.
Okay, I think I'm back. Am I good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me just do a quick summary of where everyone is supposed to be. I'm gonna share my screen. So let me share my screen. Share this. Okay, so I'm gonna just y'all can see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna just log in real quick. So the very first thing before I go into where we're supposed to be is I wanted to show this part right here, this other thing that everyone has access to. I don't think I explicitly told anybody like that y'all have access to this, but this first one here is like the regular class, the regular like the one that you're in right now. And this second one is the group coaching sessions that happens every Wednesday at 8 p.m. EST. Now, the group coaching sessions are optional. It's not, it's just a place for you to come and ask questions. You can think of it as like office hours. And also the people that's going to be in these group coaching sessions is more than just the people that's in this section. It's everybody that bought the course. So, and that includes everybody that bought the course online. So y'all might drop in and see like a bunch of people. Y'all might drop in and see like a few people. So it just really depends. And I kind of do it with a first come first serve basis. So whoever joins like the earliest, I can like answer their questions until until it usually lasts until about like 9 p.m. But I will go over if I need to. But to join these, obviously you'll click into here to access now, and then go to, you can either press the schedule now button, which is very confusing because I can't change the text of this, but you can click this and then it'll take you to the Zoom, or you can copy and paste the Zoom link from here. Every time y'all join this, I will come to this spot right here because I change up the sometimes I change up the Zoom link, and I'm definitely going to change it after this since it's online now. So I'm definitely going to change this Zoom link after the meeting. But yeah, that's how you join, and we just kind of talk about anything, ask me anything. That's really the agenda for these sessions.
Okay.
So that's that. Now to go into like where everyone's supposed to be in the course. So a quick recap, we went through the introduction already. Y'all should have already been through the HTML and CSS section, and also through where is it? Through this more CSS section. And one moment, give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. All right, so yeah, so this more CSS section also. And this more CSS section is like some of the advanced CSS concepts. So even if y'all didn't completely understand all of these, like it's fine. I mean, I do expect y'all to go through the videos and like at least practice them, but so that I at least expect that. But one thing I wanted to point out, like if we was to go into one of these, there's a download right here. This is something that that y'all should always try to look for these downloads. This download is literally all of the code that I write in the video, or some of it, or like a starting point or something like that. So I will always download this and then go through the video, and then like go through the video once, just watch it, then go through the video again and code as I go with the download. And then, after that, go through it again and try to, not the video, but just kind of go through what I went through in the video by yourself, so that you know that you understood the concept. So that would be literally 2 times going through the video and 1 time just you practicing on your own. And if you don't understand it when you do practice it on your own, I will go back through the video again to make sure you understand. This is just me setting expectations, and I don't want anybody to think that going back through a video, like, is something wrong with it, because there's really not. Like, all of this stuff is new to y'all. And like we weren't like born knowing how to code, so new things take some time to sink in, and the only way for it to truly sink in is for you to practice. So that is the best way to get through the class. So those are 3 sections that we went through, or almost. Hold on, let me open up to week 1. Yeah, so week 1 is a section that everyone should have went through this prior week, this week that just passed. And if you haven't went through it, it's fine. Just make sure you get through this section. So this is the JavaScript section. It basically teaches you how to hook up the JavaScript files and start to introduce you to some of these JavaScript concepts, like some of the basic concepts. This section is very important because it sets the foundation of what we'll be doing for most of the class, which is JavaScript. So it's definitely something that everyone should go through. Let me go back to this view. So that's this section here, onto JavaScript. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to actually, hold on, let me check my checklist. Let me stop sharing for 2 seconds. I wrote down a few things that I wanted to go over. Oh, so one of the things, so my question to the class is, how was Tuesday for you? Like, how did you feel about the class? Did you think it was helpful to go through that exercise? Just kind of your thoughts on it, and even any suggestions for improvements if you do have any, because I always like to take those.
I actually thought that it went pretty well with everyone that showed up. I think that we were all open to listening and trying different ways and get on the same page. And we understood that it was going to take more time than if we did it by ourselves, as far as like, okay, where are we starting? How do we want to do this? So I thought that it was productive. I don't really have any critiques, but I'm open to hearing if anyone else does.
What I really liked about it was kind of hearing other people explain the process, like walking through it from everybody else's perspective. Emmanuel, just him giving us extra tidbits on the why behind everything that we were doing was really helpful too. So I thought it was a good experience.
Cool. I'm glad y'all liked it. So we will have another TA actually as well. So Erica's still going to be there.
I was going to say, you fired Erica?
No. She's Erica was great. Like, she really was. I think she did a really good job. I stood for the first like 35 minutes or something like that, and I left. But Erica was really good. And we'll have another one actually. And some of y'all already met him. His name is Terrence. He came to the second orientation. And Terrence is one of the ones that did very well, and he was one of the top students in a previous class. So he's going to be a TA as well. So y'all will have 2 TAs from there. And I mean, so I'll have two TAs there, and this is like something that y'all can take as an opportunity also whenever this boot camp is over, because the TAs, they'll be able to say that they worked for my company, Blakio, which is a tech company, and automatically it's going to, first of all, it's going to have something on their resume, And then, I mean, they'll be able to get jobs easier just because they have something there, from some type of software engineering experience. It's amazing. Like, once you get your first job, everybody want to hire you, and that's just what it is. So they're using this as an opportunity to, you know, give themselves a give them, like, kind of catapult themselves into like a job in the tech industry. And obviously you don't have to be a TA to get a job after this. And we're going to go over like all the steps y'all should take to get to like make sure that y'all get a job. In this course, we're going to go over it. Not this class, but this course. But yeah, that is that. I
I
think,
have a quick
yeah,
question.
yeah, what's your question?
Since you're talking about jobs and hiring, and I was wondering, you know, they were talking about the chat GPT.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on that, and how would that affect coding? They claim that it's not, well, I haven't read about it extensively, but the news people claim that it's not one of the top jobs that's going to be, it's not going to be used for coding, but I don't understand why it wouldn't be used for coding.
Yeah, really good question. And I do want y'all to, like, this is a good example of why this class is valuable, because y'all can ask questions like that. So ChatGPT, for anybody that don't know, is a search engine. It's a search engine. I forget who was built by. I think it's built by OpenAPI. That's a company. So ChatGPT is a search engine, and right now I think you pay like $42 a month to even use it. But Microsoft, for example, is so right now Google is the top search engine. Microsoft has Bing, and Microsoft is going to integrate ChatGPT into their Bing search engine. So Google might not be the search engine that everybody go to. But either way, like, just to further explain ChatGPT before I answer your question, ChatGPT is basically an artificial intelligence search engine. Like, you can search things. You can search things like you're asking a human, which you cannot do in Google. For example, if you search on this search engine, you can say, what kind of mouse should I buy? And then they'll ask you, they'll present a list of it for you, and then you can type, can I get it in black? And then, like, it'll reference what you asked before and connect it with your next question. So it's almost like, it's exactly like having a conversation with a real person. Whereas in Google, you would have to retype, looking for where can I buy a mouse in black. Like, you have to connect all of those pieces before you go to search, which is why ChatGPT is so much better than Google. But to answer your question, no, it's not taking our jobs. Like, that's like impossible. Well, not impossible, but right now it's not able to take our jobs. And the reason it's not able to take our jobs is because there's major flaws with ChatGPT. Even though it gives you quality answers and you're able to talk to it like a human being, some of the results are just outright just incorrect, just wrong. The way they train ChatGPT is through a lot of data. They pump a lot of data into it, and then based off of that data, it gives you an answer. But that is the flaw that it has. It only bases its answers off of that data and what it can like that data, and like the stuff that it can make up in between or whatever. Like, for example, if you gave it an apple, like if you showed it a picture of an apple and you say this is a fruit, and then you showed it like what size an apple is, it'll say, okay, like an apple is this size, maybe it's in this range. Like, it'll make conclusions based off of what you uploaded into it. So coding is one of those things where you have to be accurate. You can't like mess up, and like, people do mess up all the time. That's how you get bugs. But if you leave it up to a machine to code for you, it's not I don't think it's something that a company is willing to risk their money on. because, and I say money because first of all, they have to buy the service. Second, they have to rely on the service to be accurate. And if it's not accurate, they can lose money. Software engineers is the reason why companies are even like thriving the way they are. Like if they didn't have software, if they didn't have literally things they type on the computer, if you're typing on the computer into anything, that's a piece of software, and that software was created by software engineers, the stuff that I'm teaching y'all how to do. So if they can't communicate, if they can't communicate with each other, or if they can't use their apps, then they lose money. That's just an automatic translation to that. But yeah, it's not going to take our jobs. But what it is going to do is going to open up a lot of doors, and it's going to open up a lot of doors. People are going to use this in the financial industry, in the medical industry. It passed the bar, and it passed the medical exam. So that just goes to show like how smart a machine can be, and people are going to use that in other industries, and ChatGPT is going to create its own industry as well. And by creating its own industry, you have to hire software engineers to piece together the infrastructure. So it's just going to open up more jobs for us. Did that answer your question? I know that was a long-winded answer, but did it answer everything?
Yes, one really quick, one more.
Yeah.
While we're answering these types of questions,
Mhm.
over the years, I keep hearing they're getting rid of JavaScript or Java. They're getting rid of JavaScript. They're getting rid of JavaScript. Why does this keep happening?
Yeah, I honestly, they're never getting rid of it. So this is what happens every single year. When we go to 2024, they're gonna say, is JavaScript dead, or is Java dead, is Python dead, is C++ dead? Like everybody always thinks something's about to go away. It's kind of like funny, to be honest. And all of this stuff is driven by people that don't know what they're talking about. That's just the honest truth. If someone's telling you that JavaScript is going to be dead, like they clearly don't know what they're talking about, because JavaScript is in every single web browser. It's in Chrome, it's in Firefox, is in literally every single web browser has JavaScript in it, and it operates with JavaScript. So it's impossible to get rid of JavaScript. And if they were talking about Java, it's impossible to get rid of Java also, because Java is built into so many like layers of infrastructure. If you think about it, so just give you some context. If someone's making an app, right? Let's just say like an app like Monday.com. Like Monday.com is like a you organize your team's like tasks and stuff like that. For someone to create that, right? That app had to take years to create. Like a small app would take at least a year to create, and something like that would take probably like 5-6 years. And you think about how much money a company put into that. They're paying developers over $100,000, and they have like 50 developers on there. They're spending millions of dollars on these apps, because they know they're about to, obviously make a profit off of it. But they're spending so much money on these apps, and these apps have JavaScript in them. These apps have Java in them. Like someone will be crazy to think that a company is about to dump an app because like, JavaScript, because they heard that JavaScript is dead or whatever. Like it's built into the infrastructure. It's impossible to get rid of. And even if people stop like coding in JavaScript or whatever, like there's companies that, like I said, their code base is JavaScript. There's nothing they can do about it, and they're not about to rewrite it, because they're about to lose a lot of money. So anytime you see videos on something is dead or something is going away, you can ignore those, because a company is not about to rewrite their whole app unless there is a significant, like if there's a significant benefit, not a small benefit, there has to be a significant benefit before a company rewrites an app. And that's just the honest truth. And that's just what I've seen. And that's just the reality of it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, but every year, that's what I always hear. It's
Yeah.
not the other ones. It's Java and JavaScript.
You're gonna hear it, you're gonna hear that every single year. And also every single year they're gonna say software engineer jobs is going away. They're gonna say that. And it's so funny because it's like we're not going nowhere. They say that they're gonna automate our jobs away. And it's like who's gonna automate all the other jobs away? We're the ones automating everything else away. We the ones that made the software to go into these self-checkouts at grocery stores. We're the ones putting malls out of business with Amazon. Amazon is Amazon is a software online. Don't think of it as a website. Technically it's a website, but it's software. And this is what software engineers created. And that's why, malls are getting closed down. We're the ones that's putting now with ChatGPT it's going to start putting some lawyers out of business because it just passed the bar, and there's even machines that's out there doing surgery, and it's 100 times more accurate than a specialist because it's a machine and it can see things that other people can't see. Like, for example, we see certain wavelengths of colors, not to get too technical because I'm an engineer, but we see certain wavelengths of light. Machines can see additional wavelengths of light. And with a machine that has more visibility, it can do surgery on someone much more accurately than a human being will ever be able to do. And that's something that software engineers created. So we're never gonna go out of business because we're the ones automating jobs away, which is why this is the side you want to be on. And a language is never ever going to get replaced, not a major language anyway. Maybe some of those small ones like Vue.js. Don't ever learn Vue.js, by the way. Vue.js and just like little small things that pop up here and there. Those are the things that companies may start to go away from, but not a major language like JavaScript, Java, Python, C++, SQL, MongoDB might go away, but yeah, stuff like that. Those are ingrained, and they're not going anywhere. You good? Did that answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let me jump in to what we have. So everybody should know what all of this JavaScript is. I'm gonna go down the list, and if someone doesn't know it, please say something so we can go over it here in the class. This class is for me to talk about what you've previously learned, for me to reinforce it. So if you haven't seen it before, or if you didn't get it the first time around, this is the time for me to explain what everything is. Let me share my screen so we can start going through the list. Okay, so week 1 is on to JavaScript. So let's just start going down the list. Do everybody know how to? So I'm gonna just read off these titles or whatever, and just kind of explain what they are. And if it sounds unfamiliar, could someone just come off mute and say, hey, can we go over that concept? So first video talks about linking your JavaScript to your HTML file. It's similar to linking your CSS file, but you're using a script tag instead. So that's what that is. Second one's talking about comments in JavaScript. Comments are similar to what we did with HTML and CSS, except for their comments with JavaScript. Every programming language has comments where you write notes. Strings, talking about, just different strings of characters. Let me see, varlet const. This is something I actually want to respond to. The varlet const. Did everybody understand that concept? Like the difference between the var keyword, the let keyword, and the const keyword? And if you did understand it, because somebody just explain what the difference is between those three. I think that's a better question.
Sorry, I was about to ask you to go into it and explain it, so I can't.
All right, cool. I'll
Uh,
explain it. Let me,
can I go on?
yeah. You can explain it and then I'll show a demo.
All right. Or if you declare a variable let, so definitely we can change the value of it. So if you declare a variable as const, which is constant for constant, so we can change the value. And const, any variable declared within a scope variable, a scope. So you can't access them out of the scope, except if you declare it var. So only variable declared as var that can be accessed out of scope, like function.
Right. That's correct. So scope is the reason. So let me share my screen and I'll do a quick demo on that also. Scope is what what separates var, let, and const. So with JavaScript, hold on, is my screen frozen? What's going on? Let me reopen this demo. All right, so with JavaScript, we use the var, let, and const keywords to declare data in our app. For example, if we wanted to say my name is Isaiah. That is how you use the var keyword, and that's how you assign a variable to a value, which is this is a string also, by the way. So this is var. Let, you can var, let, and const, you basically do something very similar where you use these keywords to declare some value. Now, the difference between these three things, var, let, and const, is that var and let can be changed. For example, if I wanted to change, actually, let me get these more distinctive values. Yeah, and I'll just make this one, I'll make this one middle name. So now y'all know my whole government middle name is Jamal. So first name, last name, middle name. If I was to change the first name variable, what I can do somewhere in like the millionth line of code or whatever is declare the variable again without the actual keyword and set it equal to something else. If I want to change my name to, I don't know, just like I or whatever. I can't think of it, Frank. I don't know. If I want to change the name to Frank or something, that's how you would change it. Now, every time we use, that's how you change the variable for var. It's the same thing for const. If I want to change my last name to Frank, I would do this. Let's not forget those semicolons either, even though they're optional, technically. But with const, you cannot do this. You cannot reassign a constant. This will give you an error in your code. It'll tell you that this cannot be reassigned. And let me actually comment these out so that I can give y'all an example of what that looks like. First, I'm going to link my JavaScript file, main.js. Now my JavaScript file is linked to my HTML file. And while we're here, I also want to show y'all something. And please, if I go too fast, like stop me. I feel like I always got to say that just in case. I just want y'all to know that y'all can like stop me anytime. So this is me opening up DevTools, and something I wanted to show was this source tab right here. Let me actually comment this out. I'm gonna comment this script tag out, and then I'm gonna refresh. If I refresh, the only thing I see here inside of, so y'all may have to open it up. So it's inside a top file, the user Isaiah Harrison desktop demo folder. Inside of that, I can see the HTML file, and I can see everything that's linked to the HTML file. Notice that since this is commented out, the JavaScript file is not linked. It's not even in this list of stuff. But now I'm gonna comment this back in. I'm gonna save that, go here and refresh. Now I can see the JavaScript file here. I can see that it's linked, and I can see everything inside of the JavaScript file within the DevTools. The reason I'm showing you this is because when you are on a job and you're trying to debug things, I want you to know that y'all can debug directly from the DevTools. And also this helps you to understand what's actually linked to your HTML file. If you was wondering, for example, why, something didn't work, that's why, because it's not linked properly. And you can see the links here. Either way, if I go to the console and I console log first name here, I can see that it says Isaiah. If I console log last name, I'm showing you this because I want y'all to know y'all have access to these as well. Anything y'all put in a JavaScript file, you have access to in the HTML file, I mean, in the console here. If I do middle name, I'm gonna hit tab to autocomplete and hit enter. I can see that Jamal is here. So we have Isaiah, Jamal, Harrison. I'm not gonna go over why I say undefined right now. There's a specific reason why I'm saying that. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. Either way, let me actually try to change this variable name to Frank, first name. I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna come over here, refresh, and if I press the up key, I can see the last few things that I did. So I'm gonna console log this, and it goes to Frank. So that's us successfully updating the keyword or the variable Frank. If I take a step further and update last name, I'm gonna do a refresh here. I'm gonna go to last name. Last name is Frank as well. But when I comment this in, middle name, it says assign to constant variable main.js line 16. If I click on this, it takes me to line 16. And obviously inside of main.js at line 16, that's where we got the error. Assignment to, what does it say? Assignment to constant variable. You cannot reassign a constant variable. A constant is a constant for a reason, and they put this restriction in there so that we don't accidentally change something. Me changing first name to Frank could potentially break your app because maybe first name is not supposed to be Frank. Maybe first name is supposed to be something very specific. I think a better example of that is pi, and pi is a constant 3.14. And there's a few other digits after that, but pi is always the exact same number. There's no changing that, and like you want to assign it with the const keyword. And also, so that's one difference. That's one difference between some of these things. You can change var and let, and you cannot change const. The other difference is scope, and that's what was mentioned as well. And scope is defined by what is available to you. And when I write these curly brackets is creating a scope for us. It's creating a place where stuff is defined. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. I'm going to paste in all of this stuff. So all of this stuff is inside of the curly brackets. The only place I have access to all of this stuff, well, the only place I have access to let to the variable declared with let and a variable declared with const is inside of these curly brackets. So if I do a console log of last name and I do a console log of middle name, let's save this, go back and refresh. We can see Harrison, we can see Jamal here. But if I move this stuff outside of here, if I refresh, it's saying uncaught reference error, last name is not defined, because outside of those curly brackets, it does not know what last name is. And if I comment this part out, I save this and refresh, it says it does not know what middle name is. And that's one thing I also, so we can see by those two things that let and const cannot be are not accessible outside of the curly brackets. But if I console log first name, refresh, first name is accessible outside of those curly brackets. So, and first name is declared by the keyword var. And that is the exact reason why we should never, ever, 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 ever use the var keyword to declare a variable. Y'all are going to get some conflicting opinions about this, but I'm here to tell you that I am a professional, and professionals do not use the var keyword. Some beginners are going to use these, and you may even see a professional use this, which is very rare. But if you see somebody use this var keyword and they don't explain to you explicitly why they're using it, then they don't know what they're doing, and they have a gap in their knowledge. The var keyword is never ever used. I never see someone use that, and because it's unpredictable. And the reason it's unpredictable is because you have access to it everywhere. You want to restrict access to your code as much as possible, because by restricting access, you help your code base be less bug prone. For example, if I was to change this value to Frank down here, I can do that. And was that first name? First name is Frank. We can see it clearly right there. And I'm just noticing I didn't have to do the console logs. I can just type the variable name. But yeah, first name is Frank. If I was to do last name is Frank. If I do last name, it doesn't even know what last name is. Oh wait, hold on. Last name. Oh wait, there's a reason why I did this. So it says last name is Frank right here, right? Let me actually what's the best way to share this sample? So what this did right here, right, is this set up a variable for us. When we do last name equals Frank, what this does for us is put a var here automatically for us, and it sets up a new variable name. This last name is not actually changed. What happens is last name is created outside, and this last name here is left alone because it doesn't even know what last name is. Let me save this and just show y'all that again. Refresh. Last name is not defined because it does not know what last name is. But as soon as we declare it out here, it knows what it is because it's setting up a variable name. It's setting up a variable because it thinks that you forgot to put it there. That's what that is. But yeah, so the more of the story, you don't want to use var because you have access to it everywhere, and you always want to use let and const because you can control where control where the variable updates, and you have more like explicit knowledge about where these variables exist, and that comes more into that becomes more significant the more lines of code you write. And literally apps have like thousands of lines of code, and when you declare a variable on line 1 and somebody declare the exact same name of that variable on line like 2000 and whatever, you're gonna know the difference between you're gonna see why using let and const and using these curly brackets are important. Any questions on that? I went through that really fast, so. Okay, no questions. All right. So what else? I was about to say something. I was about to say one more thing. I cannot think of it. It's fine. All right, so that's that.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
if someone's taking on someone else's code and they used var and let, how do you know which ones are variables and which ones are lets?
I see. So if you took on a new code base and they have vars and lets everywhere, if they have vars and lets everywhere of the same variable, there's likely bugs all in that code base. And they're probably, if you took on that code base, you're probably going to expect to see a lot of bugs, and they're probably going to ask you to fix them. But if you do take on that, just still use var, still use let and const. just know that you're going to see bugs. You're going to see a lot of them, actually.
But then how do you know what the variables are and what the lets are? Like when if you take, because I think in a lot of cases, you don't start with, you're usually you can often take on someone else's code.
Yeah. A lot of time you're going to, especially in the beginning, what they're going to have you doing is fixing bugs. That's all they're going to have you do in the beginning with someone else's code. If you want to know what something is at a specific point, what I would do is I would console log it. For example, let's say we have the same code like somewhere. Let's say that it was something like this. Actually, let me put it all in the same curly bracket. And it's not likely going to be in the same. You're likely going to see it. And let me do it how you're likely going to see it. You're not going to see these curly brackets. That's just the reality. But you're going to see it something like this. So and already I want you to notice that we have these red squiggly lines. It's telling you clearly that you can't use these again. Once you use var and let, and that's another thing I forgot to mention. Once you use let and const, you can't redeclare these variables. But with var, you can redeclare it. We can see that there's no error right here. So let me get rid of these just to get rid of those errors. But let's say you're fixing something here in this place. What you want to focus on is whatever this is equal to at that point in time. You don't care about whatever is reset to somewhere else, because your code is supposed to work in this specific place. And so this is what you can do. You can console log it here and say, okay, whatever this is, let me write my code so that, whatever this is Isaiah. And that's all you can do from there. But to be completely realistic, most of these things is going to have curly brackets around it. And I just said that you're not going to see the curly brackets. The reason most of them going to have curly brackets around it is because most of them are going to be inside of functions.
So what you're saying is if you inherit somebody's code, you literally have to go through the code first to find out what the variables are.
Well, you don't have to. What I would do is, so this is if you really didn't know what it was. Like for me, I can see that, it says Isaiah, and I'm gonna code my stuff to whatever, this says at that point in time. I'm not gonna worry about what somebody else did in another file somewhere. But most of the time, you're gonna see stuff inside of functions. And functions are surrounded by curly brackets. It automatically creates a scope for you. So you're not gonna have to worry about, it on line like 2000 or whatever. The example I gave is like the worst case scenario. If they didn't use any functions and they did something like this, which is very rare on a job. And if they do something like this on a job, they're likely like a startup. They're not a serious company, because everybody knows that you're not supposed to do something like this. Everything is supposed to go inside of functions for the most part. Not everything, but a lot of things.
Okay, so then what I'm assuming is that you then write some code to find out what variables are in the function, so that then all of the variables that are in the 20,000 lines of code.
Yeah. Is
that what you do first?
Yeah. Or yeah, you want to see what's inside of the function, or something that's a little bit more realistic actually is if I have access to Isaiah here. I'm not Isaiah. First name. If they're using first name within this function, we know that the first name that this is going to reference is Frank, because Frank is closest to this function. For example, if I run this function, and this is going ahead a little bit, if I run that function, it runs Frank. It knows that Frank is first name. But if this function was up here, it's still gonna say Frank. But if you run this before Frank was even before first name was even changed, then it's going to say Isaiah. So this is actually a more realistic case, something like this, where they define functions up top and they're running a function before that same variable is changed. So yeah, this is actually a perfect reason why you should never use var. So I'm glad you asked that question. Did this answer your question?
Yeah, I don't want to make things more complicated, but I do want it to be more real life, because theory is
Yeah,
get
but
frustrated when you
go ahead.
get frustrated when you're taught one thing, but then when you're on a job, you
Mhm.
have to think another way.
Yeah,
I know you're trying to, I know you're trying to make sure that we're talking and, for the analogy in correct English. So
I think you went on mute.
for the analogy, talking in correct English. So we're learning the pure way of coding. But the bugs that happen as a result of
Mhm.
other people coding and then you inheriting what they code, just letting us know would be helpful.
Yeah. And something I want to
It does answer my question. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. And something I want to point out is what I'm telling y'all, some professionals might tell you to do something different. And like sometimes that person, sometimes that person really doesn't know what they're doing. For example, let me give you an example. One of my jobs that I just quit actually. One of the guys, he's been coding longer than me. And then he was asking me to code, he was asking me to use a certain pattern, but I know that pattern is bad practice. So, and because he's been using this pattern the whole time, and like he pretty much screwed up the code. He was trying to write code that he was not an expert at. Like he was an expert at something else, and he just happened to dip into JavaScript, which he was not a professional at. So he messed up everything. And he asked me to code a very specific pattern. I knew this was a bad practice, and now I can see bugs all in the app because he wanted to code in this very specific pattern, which is bad practice. So there may be times where some people tell you to do something different. And what I would do is just do whatever they ask you to do, because they're the ones paying you at the end of the day. But just like whenever whenever you're really comfortable enough to know why, a certain pattern is not best practice, I will explain that to them. And if they still don't get it, then it's fine. I mean, you can either look for another job, or you can, or you can like just stay there. Like, and this goes to a deep conversation, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole because this can go really, I can really keep going on with this. But yeah, just know that whatever I'm teaching you here is best practice, or it's best practice to what I know so far. So, and I've been here for a good minute. So, but yeah, that was a good question you asked. That's that. Any other questions or anything?
Actually, it's not a question. So I want her to just say that if you are declaring a variable, just think of an object, because we use variable to hold an object. For example, now let's say a person. So a person is someone that have an action, that can have a name, because in object there is what we call there is function and is it property or so? So the name of the object, you can say first name, last name, and other name. So what are the functions of a person? A person can move, it can stand up, it can sit down. So for you to know what's the name of the person, you can, I think in PHP, we use or in JavaScript, we use type of to know what this variable is holding. Either is a string which is a name, or you use like age now. Age is integer. So for you to know what a variable is holding, you can use I think it's type of is an input function. For you to know what but for you to know, if you want to know what value is holding, so you can use the console to log out what the variable is holding.
Yeah, and that's that console log.
Console.log.
Yeah, you can.
So,
Yep,
so for you to know the value of the variable, so if you want to know data type. So either it's string or integer. I think you use a type of.
Yeah, type of that. I'm not even sure if I went over this in the course either, but yeah, that's the data type. So these are strings. There's like numbers, functions. Like if I was to put const age 33, it's a number to different data types. That's what he's referring to, and also something that I didn't want to kind of go over, but everything, all of the variables are like he was saying are in the object, and the object that is in is the window, technically, and the window is the browser. So window is a big object, and this object has a whole bunch of stuff in there. Every time you define something that is not inside of a curly bracket, it attaches to the window, which is a big object, and that's why window dot first name is Frank, because first name is Frank. But I don't want to confuse everybody too much. I want to like step through it little by little. Let me go back to here. All right, so strings are a series of characters. We got var-let const, we just went over that. Scope, we went over scope also. That was with those curly brackets. The console, we went over that as well. I just kind of pushed through all of this. Logging scope, we went over that as well. When I was logging like first name and last name, and it didn't know what it was because it wasn't inside of the curly brackets. Functions, something I want to kind of stop at, because I want y'all to see all of the different ways to write functions. So a function, so let me just give a quick demo of what a function is. So here, I'm gonna just say, I'm a console log hey right here, right? I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna refresh, it says hey in the console. The console logged hey, that's what the console log means. Inside these curly brackets like this, and outside of the curly brackets, also hi. This code is run automatically. It automatically runs. You have no control over when this code runs. But functions allow you to control when the code runs. If I put this into a function, say hey, this is the structure of a function. It's also not the structure that we're going to use, but I'm going to save this real quick, and I'm going to show you that this is not going to log to the console. If I refresh, it doesn't log to the console because it's not run. The way we run a function is by calling a function or invoking a function. And you call a function by putting a function name, and you do an opening and closing bracket. What that does is it goes to the function and it starts to run everything inside of the function. So if I save this, go back, refresh, it console logs hey. If I go through exactly what happens is whenever I refresh the page, first it reads JavaScript top to bottom. It goes from the top, it keeps going until it gets to the script tag. Once it gets to the script tag, it goes inside of the main.js file here. And then it starts from the top again. It says, okay, we see a function. Okay, cool. It gets to line 5. It says, okay, you want to run that function. Then it hops back up to line 2, and then it runs line 2. That's me showing you so it runs line 2, and then from there it goes back to the HTML file and starts to read everything under that. Literally everything is run from top to bottom. So top to bottom, got here, went inside of here, went from here, it sees a function, it goes to line 5, it calls it, it goes back up to line 2, and runs that, it hops back out of the function, and it says, okay, that's the last thing. It goes back to the HTML and it reads the rest of the stuff. I wanted to repeat that because it's important that you know the order in which things run, which is why we set up our CSS in the head tag. This is something I wanted to bring up before, but I didn't want to give too much to y'all. The reason we set it up here, and we can set it up anywhere we want, we can put it down here if we wanted to. The reason we set it up here is because we want all of our stylings to load. We want every single style to load before our HTML loads. I don't know if y'all ever been to a website and you load it up and it looks like just a bunch of text for like 2 or 3 seconds. And then all of a sudden everything loads up. And then now you can see all the color and like the shapes of everything, stuff like that. That's because the HTML, I mean, the CSS did not load before the HTML. That's the reason why that happens. And that's why you want to have your link tag in your head tag. And you want to have your JavaScript at the bottom of your HTML, because you want your HTML to load before your JavaScript. So CSS load before HTML because you don't want it to look crazy on your website. You want your HTML to load before your JavaScript because you don't want people to press buttons. You don't want, so JavaScript can potentially slow down your website if you put it first, because it has to go through and run through everything. You want all your HTML to show up before your functionality is there, so that it looks like to the user that your website is fast. It looks faster than what it actually is. That's me going down the rabbit hole a little bit, but that's why that's here. And this is how you run a function. That's the order in which this runs. See, the function comes here and then it runs that. That's that. Any questions on functions before I continue and show you the other versions of a function? All right, cool. So this is the way we're never ever going to write a function, and this is the old way of writing a function. The new way of writing a function is you declare with a variable. So const, say, hey, let me just put like 2 equals. You put the curly brackets, and then you put these things here, and then you put the curly brackets. This is how we're going to write functions in this class. And let me actually take a step back really quick and show y'all why we even have these brackets right here. If I was to these bracket things allow us to pass in additional information. So I can pass in some name. So I can pass in Isaiah here. And what this is going to do is going to call a function. It's going to replace name with whatever I put here. Then it's going to console log out with name. I'm gonna delete this hey right here. So this is going to console log Isaiah console log. I'll put Isaiah Harrison in here. It's going to console log Isaiah Harrison. Refresh Isaiah Harrison. This is a way for us to pass in a variable to a function. You can think of these variables the exact same as declaring like this, except for they're declared inside of here. And if you're wondering, what if I want to pass in something else? Last name here. Let's say I never pass in anything. If I do a refresh, it's undefined because we didn't define it as anything. If I pass in another one, comma, let's say Jamal. Actually, let's put this here. Let's put last here, actually. So let's name this first. And we can name these whatever we want. This is first. So first is Isaiah, last is Harrison. This is how you pass in more than one variable. If I save this, go back and refresh, we see Isaiah Harrison here, because I passed in 2 variables. That's what I wanted to explain. And from there, I'm gonna go to this version of writing a function, and why this version is actually much better and much more concise than this version here. If I do say, hey, let's say hey 2, let's actually change this to 1 variable because I want to, for demonstration purposes. If I do this, let me comment this out because I don't want this code right now. If I do this, let's say console log first here. I pass in Isaiah. It's going to go here. It's going to console log Isaiah. I save this. I go back and refresh. It says Isaiah here as expected. Right. So one thing I want to point out, if I highlight over this, right, I can see that 48 characters were selected right here at the bottom. If I highlight one thing, 1 character selected, but I'm gonna highlight the whole thing. 48 characters is selected right here. If I highlight over this one, it says 53. For now, it says 53. But with this version of writing a function, we can start to remove characters. For example, if you don't need, if you only have one parameter here, you can get rid of these brackets right here. So now, you know, it knocked it down to 51 characters, but this, let me see, this becomes more significant. So it knocks it down to 51 characters, which this still technically has less characters than this one. But where this one comes into play is it also incorporates scope as well. Like whenever you have these curly brackets, it incorporates that. But let me hold on, let me give like a simplified example of something really quick. We have this, we have const. Let's say B, we're logging B to the console, just simplifying this as much as possible. So that's 37, and this one is 35. Let me do something here. So if I do, var, this is me testing something out as well. If I do C equals, hey, right here, and I console log C right here. Let me just, I'm just gonna keep that there. If I console log C here, it says that, hold on. Let me comment this out. Just want to do it for demonstration purposes. C is not defined here, because C is only defined within these brackets. But if I'm not mistaken, and this is, I could be wrong on this. This is me testing this out. If I do the same thing with this one and I console.log C. Hold on, this is me running into something. Hold on, let me redo this. Actually, I think I messed up this example. I'm going to put this back in here. I'm not even gonna put a variable here. I'm just gonna call it, I'm gonna call A like this. Then I'm gonna console log C here. So if I call that, it does not know what C is. Okay. But if I change this to the other way of writing variable, if I'm not mistaken, it should know what C is. Oh, it still doesn't know what C is. Okay, never mind. Just cut out that last like 5 minutes of me rambling. But this is something I want to point out as well. There's so many rules to coding that it's kind of impossible to know every single rule. And sometimes it takes you to have to run these examples like this to understand what the language is actually doing. And the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes when you code something, you don't necessarily realize that you've introduced a bug because languages work a very specific way. What I was trying to find out here was if this is only defined within these curly brackets right here. And it is, because we can't, hold on, this is not even, that wasn't even a console log. Yeah. And it is because we can't console log C outside of these curly brackets. I thought that was a difference between this function and the last function. But an example of something that people think that an example of a bug that can potentially happen, that you would probably have to like run these tests on is declaring by reference versus declaring by value. And this is something that a lot of beginners run into because they don't realize how the actual programming language works. So I'm gonna show you this because this is likely something that you're gonna run into. And the funny thing is this is something that I ran into on my very first job, and it took me like a week to figure out. So for example, let's say I did, let's say A equals like 2, for example, right? If I do console log of A, let me see what time it is, by the way. It's 11 o'clock. If I do it, we're gonna take a quick break right after this example. If I do a console log of A right here, right? Actually, let me do A equals, yeah, I'm gonna just say 2. If I do a console log with A equals, A is 2 right here. Let me say B equals A. Let me console log what B is. Console log what B is. So let me make this look a little bit more understandable. This is A, and this is B here. So A is 2, B is 2, right? Let's say I did B equals 3 right here. What you expect to happen is A to log out as 2, and now B to log out as 3. That's what it looks like it's going to happen. Okay, that did happen. Hold on. I think this. Hold on. Let me just test something out real quick. I think there's a new route that was introduced. No, it's not. No, that's why. Okay, so we have B equals A, equals A, B equals 3. Let's go on break really quick. I gotta figure out what's going on with this, because I want to show you this concept, because this concept is something that a lot of people run into. We're gonna go on break for 15 minutes. We're gonna come back and I'm gonna show y'all this by reference and by values thing that y'all should know about. I'm just running into some issues on my end, trying to figure out how to get it. So right now it's 11:10. Let's come back at 11:25, and I'm gonna show this example, and then we'll continue going through everything that we should have done in this past week to see if there's any questions, and then we'll end class from there. So I'll see y'all back at 11:25, and I'll be here in case anybody have any questions. All right, we'll start back up in the next 60 seconds, just to give people time to come back. While people were coming back, just a quick book recommendation, just brought one. Think and Grow Rich, something I just heard of in one of those books that a lot of people reference that has been like, that does business and and wants to make a lot of money. They reference this book. So, obviously I had to buy it also. And I'll let y'all know how it goes after I read it.
Which book is it?
Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, let me know. How's the read?
They supposedly it's like a really, really, really hard read, but everybody that go through this says that this book influenced a lot of decisions they made so that they can make a lot of, like, in business, like a lot of money in business.
Financial decisions.
Well, it probably just, but yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. It's a pretty thick book, but all right, let me share my screen real quick. So something, and this is why I even teach this class, so I can always go back to my fundamentals. Something that I was trying to teach this reference and value thing, but I didn't realize that this doesn't matter with like primitives, and primitives are like strings, numbers, stuff like that. It only matters with objects, and objects is not covered in the section that I asked y'all to go through. So I don't want to go too far ahead. Objects aren't even in this section. Y'all don't see those until you get to the JavaScript tools section, which is not the section I asked y'all to go through yet. Some of y'all already went through it, but it's not where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to save that reference and value conversation for when we go through those sections. So yeah, I'm gonna just delete that. But what I do want to go through is the debugger and how that works. Let me debugger. But yeah, to quickly finish up this conversation though, we're not using this version of a function in this course. We're always going to use this version, and this version is called using in it's like an arrow function. It's like using an arrow function basically. This is called an arrow function. This is the older way of writing a function. This is the newer way of writing a function. I think this comes more into place whenever you start getting into objects, which is not something that we went over in this part yet. When I was talking about scoping and stuff like that, for example, and just to show you what an object is, and like again, y'all don't need to know what I'm doing here, but this is an object. Talk, I don't know, and that older way of writing a function comes into play when we start talking about scope within objects. And this is an object, a variable that has more than one value. But y'all going to see what these are once y'all get to the next section. Then I'll talk about the difference between. I'll talk about more of a difference between these arrow functions and these regular older way of writing functions. But for now, all you need to know is that we're writing functions like this. We're declaring a variable with one of these keywords, and then we're setting it equal to an arrow function, which is set up in this structure right here, like that. And just put all in one line. This is the arrow function part, and everything, all your code goes inside of the curly brackets, just like we were doing when we were talking about like scope and stuff like that. But that's that. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to, the other thing was whenever I want y'all to remember is whenever we have one variable, we don't need these curly brackets. We don't need those at all. Also, did we talk about this yet? I don't want to go too far. Return. Yeah, that's the next section. I can't even talk about that right now. Okay. Yeah, that's the next section. All right. So only two things that y'all should know is this can be by itself if it's just one parameter. If we have two, we have to put those things back. We have to put these back. But if it's just one inside of there, like this, then we can get rid of these. And also, yeah, so and we can get rid of those. So the last thing I said was that this one takes up less space, which it does not right now. Right now, this says 16 characters, and this one says 18. But the reason we don't see that this one takes up less space is because we didn't learn the other stuff yet, and that's in the next section. So I'm gonna go back to this concept next week, because this week I want everybody to start going through so once JavaScript should be complete, I want everybody to start going through JavaScript tools. And this section is very, very long, so it's going to take y'all some time to get through. But I want y'all to try your best to get through this section. It's a very long section. We're going to have 2 weeks to even get through this section, honestly. But next week I'm gonna start describing why, like more reasons why arrow functions are better than regular functions. Questions, comments? Okay. All right, so let me go through the debugger before class is over, because y'all, this is the skill that y'all everybody need to know. Like y'all need to know how to go through the debugger. Let's say I'm gonna just put B here. I'm gonna console log this real quick. We all should know what this does by now. We have, let me see, we have, actually let me put this more descriptive. Say something. The function name is say something, and we're passing in something as a parameter, and we're going to console log, say log something. That's the function name. We're going to log something, and the thing that we're going to log is my name. So we're going to call this function. It's going to pass in this as a parameter. It's going to log that to the console. I'm going to save that real quick and go to here and refresh. We see Isaiah logged here to the console, right? Now I'm going to show y'all how to debug. Let's say, let me see. Let's say that this code did something that that you wasn't expecting to do. Let's say I did this instead of writing a variable, and to show you what the difference is, this is the actual variable. This is referencing this here, but this one is referencing a string, because this is in between single quotes here. If it's in between single quotes or double quotes, it's talking about a string. This is not going to log Isaiah. If I go here and refresh, it logs something, the string of something, and not the variable of something, which is two different things. So let's say we didn't know why it logged something right here, and let me actually put that as the last thing, because for demonstration purposes. So it logged Isaiah, and then it logs something. You're like, why is it logging something and not like Isaiah? Obviously, you can look at the code and figure out why. Or and let's say that, you know, I mean, right here is obvious. It's very obvious why it's logging this. But let's say it wasn't obvious, and you actually have to go through the code and see what happened. So sometimes in code, things are much harder to keep track of than us simply just looking at it. And when you need to really go in and try to figure out what's happening, sometimes it's better to use the debugger. The debugger is a way for you to step through the code. Remember earlier I told y'all that, you know, when we refresh the page, it goes through this, it runs top to bottom, it goes to the script tag, it goes to the main.js, and it runs top to bottom. The reason I told you that is because that's how so that I told you that because like that's how this runs, like how the browser reads this. But with the debugger, we're able to physically see the order in which the browser reads the code, so that we can figure out where the bug even started with. So, and I feel like that's better shown with the demonstration. So I'm going to write debugger here. I write debugger, if I refresh the page, it stops the code. So it runs through it runs through this, then it goes to the JavaScript, and then it stops whenever it says debugger right here. So whenever it stops, we can use a few buttons, and these buttons help us navigate our way through the code. I'm gonna share this button right here. This button is the step button. If I press this, it goes to the next line. Every time I press this, it goes to the line, it goes to like the next line that's being read in this file. If I click this again, you can see it skipped over all of these, it skipped over this line 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 because nothing was happening there. It saw that this was a function, and then it skipped right over it. And now it sees that we're calling a function. And we'll press this again. After we call a function, it goes back to line 3, just like I was explaining earlier. So now, if we hover over, we can start to do these things where we can like see what's in the code. If I hover over something, I can see that I passed in Isaiah. And if I hover over this, it says Isaiah here, and that's how I know Isaiah logged to the console. I'm gonna press this button. So now we have Isaiah logged to the console. If I literally go to the console right here, we see Isaiah logged right here to the console. And then I'm gonna press this button again to go over the next line. As soon as I go past that line, Isaiah logged to the console again. If I go to the console, we see Isaiah here again for a second time. Now I'm gonna do that again here. Now we should see 3 Isaiahs logged to the console. We have 3 right here. And once I go over this line, we can see that something logs to the console. Now, obviously, this was a very obvious, bug that we saw because this is actually inside of a string and not a and not the actual variable. But like I said, these can get very complicated, and one of the easiest ways to find bugs or things in your code that you didn't expect, is to debug the code. If I press this again, it jumps out of the function and then it continues to line 10. And then, it basically just runs the rest of the code. Don't worry about all of this extra stuff right here. That's stuff you don't need to know about. But that's an example of the debugger. Now I'm going to refresh this again. And actually, let me add some more code in here because I want to show you all the different cases that y'all can use this stuff with. So let me do this. Let's just say hi. Let me get rid of these. So if I refresh, right, and I press, so this button basically takes us through the code. Now I'm gonna show y'all this again. I'm just gonna step through. We hit a function, we go over it because nothing happened, and we go over this function as well. Now we're gonna step into this function because you called it. It runs that, it runs it, it runs it. And then after it's done, it goes outside of the function and goes to the next line, which is line 16. Line 16 goes into the other function. It runs it, it runs it, it runs it. And then it steps out of that function and then continues. Remember that, right? So I'm gonna refresh. Now I'm gonna show you what these other buttons do. This button is the step over next. It says step over next function call button. If I press this, it's going to go to the next line and it's going to do the exact same thing it did before, except for now, if I press this, it's not going to go inside of the function. It's going to step over the function. So let's say we didn't want to test anything in here. We just press this button to just skip right over it. And then let's say I want to go inside of this one. That's when I'll press this button right here to actually go inside and see what happens there. Okay, I'm going to refresh this again. Now I'm going to show you what the, let's see, step into function call. So step into function call. Not sure what it would do right here. So if I press this, this basically goes into the function. So just like this one did, where it actually went into the function, this steps into the function. So let me show you where this is even useful. If we're pressing this button, we press this button again, press this button again, and we want to go inside here. We have 2 options. We can do the step into function, or we can do this right here. But I'm gonna do step into, and that's how we get into it. And now, while I'm showing you this button right here is the step out of current function. So if I press this, this is going to step out of this function. We're inside of log something two. When I come outside of it, it goes right to the next line. So basically these 5 things, and this one literally is redundant, to be honest, to step into function, since this one does the exact same thing. But either way, these 5 things help us navigate our way through the JavaScript file so that we can test, so that we can go through and test what we want to test. Also, we were even able to do this because we set a debugger here, and that actually made me think of something else. I'm gonna put a debugger here, and I'm gonna put a debugger here, and I'm gonna put a debugger here, right? If I refresh the page, it hit the first debugger right here. Now we didn't go over what this button does. This is the play button. This button stops execution of the function. Like this is what this is called is this is stopping execution of the JavaScript file. So it's stopping it. So if I press this button here again, it's going to keep running until it runs into another debugger. The next, can somebody tell me what the next debugger is going to be? Like which one of these, if I press play and this runs into the next debugger, which line is it going to stop at?
Line 17. Oh, line 17.
So it's actually going to stop at line 11, because if we go through, we hit
blog something too. Okay.
Yeah.
Blog line 11.
Yeah, because we're going here. So play. Yeah, go to line 11. Because we called this function and we went inside of here, and that's when it hit that debugger. And now if I press play again, it's going to go to line 17, because that's the next thing in line. If I press play again, it's going to go to line 19. Right. Let me refresh the page. Another way, hold on, let me actually get rid of these debuggers. We don't actually have to write debugger for us to use the debugger. Let me refresh. We don't have any debuggers in here. Another way to write a debugger is to use the console. So I can press lines right here. Any line I hit is where it's going to put a debugger. So if I refresh, see, stop at this first line. If I hit play, it stopped at line 13. Then it's going to stop at line 8. Then it's going to stop at line 15. And then it's going to stop at line 3. And then it's going to go outside, because that's the order in which this file was run. So you can either physically write debugger in your code, or you can write a debugger here inside of the console. Questions? Okay. No questions. All right. So let's see. So that's JavaScript tools. Let me make sure we covered everything. Nolan undefined. So we did debugger. So Nolan undefined. I mean, show you what the difference is. So let's say I have a variable named Isaiah, right? Obviously, if I go here and do Isaiah, it's going to say Isaiah. But what if I never set that equal to anything? I just said name by itself. I never said it's equal to a value. If I refresh, now my name is undefined. Anytime you don't set a variable equal to something, the value of it is undefined. The exact same thing is when we saw when we had that function and we passed in another parameter that we didn't pass in a value for, it was undefined because we never set it to anything. Same thing for variables. And this actually goes to show another reason why, another functionality of the const keyword. Const, you have to set this equal to something. You can't have it not equal to something. If I hover over this, it says const declaration must be initialized. You have to initialize this with a value. If I refresh here, it's going to give us an error. Missing initializer and const declaration. So that's another difference between let and const. With let, you don't have to set it equal to a value because you're able to change it later if you want. But with const, because you can't change that value ever, it doesn't make sense for you to define it without a value. Like it physically, it literally does not make sense. So they force you to set it equal to something. So that it has to be set equal to something. So now my name is Isaiah there. Now with no, for example, so no is the absence of a value, but done on purpose. Nothing. So this means basically that there's no value there. Like there's literally no value in there. And I'm gonna just play my name here just so that we have that. So if I go here, it says, let me refresh the page. It says no for my name. That's because we physically set it equal to no, which means that there's no value here. Why do we even have this? Like why do we even have the option to set it equal to no value? Why not just set it equal to, why not just not set equal to anything and it just be undefined? The reason you would want to use this no, and to be honest, I've never, I can't recall a time where I've used this before. Like I physically set something equal to no before, because generally you're not supposed to set something equal to no. For you to do this, you want to set this equal to nothing without setting it equal to undefined, if that makes sense. Like I want this to be set equal to a value. I want people to know that I purposely set this equal to nothing. And that's the reason why you use this. Now, if you had this, somebody might think to themselves, okay, why didn't you set that equal to something? But if you do this, they're like, okay, I know that you specifically set it equal to nothing. Another reason is because, like I said before, you want it to be undefined as opposed to no. And that comes into play later on down the line. Well, but whenever we start getting into JavaScript tools, so I don't want to skip too far ahead. But sometimes you want it to be undefined and you don't want it to be no. That's just what it is. But just know that both no and undefined, they both no and undefined, they both represent a value that's not set. And obviously we can set this equal to undefined as well if I wanted to. If I refresh this, it's set equal to undefined. So both no and undefined are keywords that's reserved. You cannot use these as variable names. You can't say let no equal something, because that's going to likely mess your code up, and you're not supposed to do that. Variable declaration not allowed at this location, because you can't reset this. This variable is a reserved keyword. You can't use that. And while we're on the topic, reserved keywords are keywords that are defined within the language. Undefined. What else is reserved? Or what was that?
KE1.
I can't hear it. Well, say it again. Say it again.
Like KE1.
Oh, key. Yeah. Oh, well, you can use key. Now, when we get to React, key has a meaning, but yeah, you should be able to use. You should be able to. Key. Yeah, you can use key, but later on you're not going to be able to. But yeah, there's things like this, like object. It's like console. Obviously, you can't set console to something because console technically is a object, and we're gonna go over objects in next week. But if I console log console, we can see that console is actually an object, and it has a log function on it. We were using console.log. This is what we were using this whole time, which is a method. But we're gonna go over this. Y'all gonna see how all this stuff works in the next class. But yeah, these are examples of reserved keywords, and you'll likely know whenever you're running into this, because it'll tell you. And there's way more than this. Like there's keywords that I don't even know about that you can't use, but it'll tell you when you're using a keyword that you're not supposed to use. But that is that. See, we have 10 minutes left. Any questions at all on anything I went over? Okay. All right. So for Tuesday's class, what I want y'all to do is go over Flexbox, actually. I just want Tuesday's class to be a like study session on Flexbox. And it's CSS, obviously. Actually, let me see if I can give y'all something more relevant to see JavaScript, onto JavaScript comments, strings, var, practice, scope, console, functions. Actually, for Tuesday, and I'm gonna put this in the what's it called, in the Slack channel. Only thing I want y'all to do on Tuesday is create variables. You don't even have to do anything with it. So it'll be a short class. Y'all can use this as a study session if y'all want. I want y'all to write example of a comment, example of a string, example of varlet const, example using scope, example using the console, like, and just go through every single section here and write an example of how you do that specific thing. And even an example of like writing a debugger in your code. Like that, this Tuesday class might go like really, really fast. So so after y'all write those examples, I actually do want y'all to go through Flexbox, and I want y'all to try to write examples of Flexbox. And I'm gonna give y'all a more specific assignment in the Slack channel. But I want y'all to practice this because we're gonna be using this a lot. And I want y'all to be familiar with the different concepts here. Some of these, to be honest, I don't even know, but I want y'all to have a general idea of how to use this, and like just so that you're able to see something on the screen. So Tuesday's class, I want y'all to go through here, write an example of each of these things. After y'all done that, I want y'all to go through this, and I'm gonna give y'all this link in the Slack, and I want y'all to go through this and like practice everything y'all see on this page, or as much as this as possible. And I'm gonna let the TAs know to show y'all what the important things are, and then from there for y'all to start like branching out of the more commonly used things and into like things that I potentially don't know how to do, which is, you know, there's examples here of how to do all of those things. Yeah, even this. I don't think I've ever used this, but these things are really good to know about. So that's that. It's 11:52. If there's no questions, I will let you all go early. And let me again check my notes to be sure that there was nothing else for me to tell you. Hold on one moment. I wrote a few things down earlier. So questions review section Tuesday, Wednesday, JavaScript, talk about Flexbox, and what's the next thing? Yeah, that was everything. So I went over everything. So we'll have 2 TAs on Tuesday, and Wednesdays, remember there's a study section. Oh, one more thing about the Wednesday classes. So last Wednesday, it kicked y'all out of the Zoom the last time. So on Wednesday, so y'all can use that Zoom link anytime y'all want, except for Wednesdays. Wednesdays from 8 p.m. So Wednesdays, anytime after 8 p.m. So from 8 to like 9:30-ish, for y'all not to use the actual class link, this one here, like for a study session, because y'all gonna be kicked out from it. And what y'all can do is join the Wednesday section, the Wednesday link, and I'm gonna put both links. I'm gonna repost both links in the Slack channel, just so y'all know the difference. So if you're kicked out of one, just come to the Wednesday one, and I'll set up the breakout rooms so y'all can do exactly what y'all did last time.
Okay.
So after this, I'm gonna post those 2 links, and I'm also come up with some assignment for you to do on Tuesday. Y'all should see 2 TAs on Tuesday, Erica and Terrence. I think that's everything. There's no questions. I'll see y'all Sunday or Wednesday if y'all come.
All right, thank you.